Washington State is a hiker's paradise, boasting some of America's most iconic trails and breathtaking natural beauty. Mount Rainier is the crown jewel of Washington State's natural beauty, and majestic doesn't even begin to describe it. This behemoth of a mountain dominates the Washington skyline, with its snow-capped peak glistening under the sun. There are plenty of things to do in Mount Rainier National Park. Lush forests sprawl across its base, hiding crystal-clear lakes and cascading waterfalls. It's a scene straight out of a postcard, a place where you can almost imagine breathing in the crisp mountain air and feeling all your worries melt away. But here's the thing about Mount Rainier. Beneath all that beauty lies a sleeping giant. Mount Rainier is an active volcano whose history is as fiery as its potential future. But there's another unsettling truth: the mountain's undying hunger for people. Over the years, numerous explorers have vanished without a trace on its treacherous slopes. So while Mount Rainier's beauty is undeniable, its past and the mysteries it holds are enough to send shivers down one's spine. This majestic volcano reaches a staggering 14,410 feet, making it the fifth highest peak in the contiguous United States. Additional volcanic peaks surround Mount Rainier, each adding to the park's dramatic topography. Besides lush forests, wildflowers, and cascading waterfalls, the park is a haven for various wildlife species. Black bears and elk roam the forests, while marmots whistle from rocky outcrops. Bald eagles soar overhead, their calls echoing through the valleys. Mount Rainier National Park is a paradise for nature lovers who can hike, camp, and view wildlife. It boasts over 275 miles of maintained trails, catering to hikers of all skill levels. From hard hikes to short, family-friendly nature walks to challenging multi-day treks, there's something for everyone. Popular easy trails lead to stunning wildflower meadows, breathtaking viewpoints, and even glaciers. Unfortunately, not every epic vacation to this national park ends well for visitors. While Mount Rainier's beauty is undeniable, it comes with a chilling undercurrent. Numerous people have vanished without a trace on its slopes, leaving behind families and unanswered questions. Elaine Robertson, 1979. In 1979, a woman from California drove to Mount Rainier National Park to camp. She was never seen or heard from again. Detectives are concerned a generation that would have information about her disappearance will soon be lost, leaving the case completely unsolvable. 46 years ago, the woman seemingly vanished from Mount Rainier National Park. The disappearance of 24-year-old Elaine Robertson is one of the oldest unsolved cases in Pierce County. It's one of those cases where literally the person walks off the face of the earth. Detective Sergeant Lionel Anderson with Pierce County Sheriff's Department said. Over Memorial Day weekend in 1979, Robertson traveled from California to western Washington in a Volkswagen camper van with her 2 dogs in tow. There is not much known about Robertson or the case. Detectives do know she recently went through a breakup and was in the process of obtaining a master's degree at the time of her disappearance. From there, the story takes an interesting turn in that eventually it is found that she had been seen at Mount Rainier by two campers at Sunshine Point, Anderson said. Sunshine Point is more than 40 miles from where her van was found by law enforcement. She arrived at the campground on foot with two dogs, wet and cold, asking if she could get some assistance. They loaned her a tent, and when they wake up in the morning, she's gone. She's left her belongings behind, and both she and her dogs have just vanished, Anderson said. Investigators have a limited amount of information about the case and Robertson herself. There's no mention of ever finding a trace of her or her dogs after the final sighting at the campsite. The articles did detail the large search that ensued after she was reported missing. About 100 people, a helicopter, canine, and search crews all scoured the area where she was last seen. Then, over 26 years after she disappeared, so did the campsite where she was last seen. In November 2006, nearly 18 inches of rain fell in Mount Rainier National Park, causing the Nisqually River to overflow. The Sunshine Point campground was washed away. Campers were disappointed to hear this popular spot was gone, and so were investigators. As a detective, you want to be able to go back a lot of times to revisit the crime scene. Well, the crime scene may not exist any longer. So that's a challenge, said Lindsay Wade, a former detective from Tacoma. Where does the case stand now? Investigators have several theories about what may have happened to Robertson. We presume that she is deceased, but in this amount of time, we also have not found her remains at Mount Rainier, and they've done a considerable amount of construction in the park, Anderson said. One theory is that Elaine could have been the victim of a serial killer. Sometimes people refer to the 1970s as like the golden age of serial killing. And to some degree, I think that's true because there were quite a few known serial killers operating in Washington back in the 1970s, Wade said. Anderson said they doubt she was unalived by an animal or an accidental fall because they believe they would have found at least one of her dogs or her remains. No one has seen Robertson in 46 years. Detectives have received no tips that have panned out, which contributed to the fact that not much progress has been made in solving her case. Now time is running out for her family to finally get some closure. Anderson says this is the kind of case that could be brought to the forefront again if people come forward with information about her whereabouts that Memorial Day weekend in 1979. I think people are reluctant to come forward sometimes because they think that their information might not be important or it's silly or maybe they heard it wrong, Anderson said. In this case, none of those things are valid. Everything that somebody could bring forward could be the piece that allowed us to put this puzzle back together. Joe Wood, Jr., 1999. Joe Wood, Jr., a writer from New York, vanished without a trace in Mount Rainier National Park in 1999. He was attending a journalism conference in Seattle, Unity 99, with over 6,000 other writers of color. After checking in and socializing on the first day, Wood rented a car and drove to Mount Rainier. Wood was last seen at Comet Falls, a hike of up to 3 hours from meadows to snowfields at 4,800 feet. The last time anyone saw New York writer Joe Wood, Jr. was on July 8, 1999. Wood was one of 6,000 writers and editors who had come to Seattle for Unity 99, a journalism conference for writers of color. He had checked into his hotel and met up with some friends on the first night. The next day, he picked up a rental car and drove about 2.5 hours to Mount Rainier. The year 2000 would be an election year, and candidates were courting voters and working the press at Unity. In 1999, Vice President Al Gore gave a speech. John McCain and George W. Bush, the Republican candidates that year, made brief appearances. The morning before he set off for Rainier, Wood attended an intimate breakfast with 7 other journalists. Cornel West, the former Harvard professor, author, and future presidential candidate, and Bill Bradley, another 2000 Democratic hopeful. Bradley was challenging Gore, the front-runner, and Wood was the one who asked the question on everyone's mind. How are you going to distinguish yourself from Gore in regards to the black community? And what makes you think you can win? West recounted to the New York Observer in 1999. It was a basic question, but he was the elephant sitting in the room. No one wanted to ask. It was classic Wood. No wallflower, he was unafraid of confrontation, even among those far more established than himself. At that time, Wood had recently been in a relationship with Somini Sengupta, a reporter at the New York Times, who was also in Seattle for the conference. Also present was Andy Shao, his friend and editor from the Village Voice, the venerable Out Weekly, where Wood had worked for years before becoming editor of the New Press, a non-profit book imprint with a social justice mission. At first, Wood's absence from Unity didn't draw notice, but as the hours passed, Sengupta became alarmed when he wasn't answering his cell phone, a still novel device that hadn't yet become an extra appendage. She started calling around. No one had seen Wood. By July 12th, he hadn't checked out from the hotel or arrived back in New York. He'd been missing for 4 days. Wood's disappearance was disturbing enough that Faith Childs, his literary agent, hired a private investigator. The discovery of his car, nearly a week after he had gone missing, kicked off a frantic search effort. The search team thought they caught a major break when hiker Gaumond, after seeing a small story in one of the local newspapers and recognizing Wood's photograph, told park rangers that he had crossed paths with the missing person. He remembered Wood as looking like a birdwatcher. Xiao got in touch with Gaumond and learned that he'd seen Wood at a higher elevation, 4,800 feet, and literally off the beaten path, not on a marked trail. After Wood's disappearance, Xiao wrote in the Voice that he understood why friends were perplexed about Wood climbing so high up the mountain, hiking 3+ hours, venturing past the dogwood and lush landscape and Douglas fir to the clearing where he encountered Gaumond. There, 4 to 6 foot high compacted snow blankets the steep landscape, obscuring the trails. Xiao, Sengupta, and other loved ones converged on Seattle for a week of search and rescue efforts. At the peak of the search, there were as many as 38 people looking for Wood, including volunteers, rangers, and friends and family, plus 5 dogs and a helicopter. The team was hampered by an onslaught of rain and cold weather. That winter had seen record amounts of rainfall, creating a large melting snowpack that would have erased his steps. The search didn't begin until a week after his disappearance, and with each day the likelihood of finding him alive diminished. For a week, the rescue team climbed the trail to retrace the steps Wood may have taken. The New Yorkers saw how dangerous Mount Rainier was with their own eyes. Stupid city slicker that I am. I had no idea that you could die 1,000 different ways up there, right? Shao says. Then learning too, why isn't this trail better marked? Why is it so wild up here? And the rangers saying we have an ethic here at Mount Rainier to keep it wild. It's a different relationship to nature, and all of that was news to me. Eventually, Wood's father gathered the friends and family and gave a speech. One of the saddest things I've ever heard. Shao recalls telling everyone we have to face reality and we just have to stop. During one of their search hikes on Mount Rainier, Shao and Sengupta climbed the trail and left a token for their friend underneath a dwarf dogwood tree. It's a tree that flowers even in the depths of winter. Sengupta dug a hole and buried an earring for Wood. At the time of his disappearance, Wood had been writing a non-fiction book about the Black family, using his own as the centerpiece. This would have been a deeply personal work that exposed his family's secrets, his friends say. Wood had conducted hours of interviews with his relatives, but he hadn't had a chance to process the material. His parents, both of whom have since passed, held on to his computer and the material for years. His mother held out hope that her son would be found for so long that there was no memorial until about a year after his disappearance, when one was held at the Schomburg Center in Harlem. The book he was working on, I think, would have been really remarkable, says Southgate. Edwin Birch, 2014. On July 12, 2014, Edwin Birch, a 64-year-old Tacoma resident, vanished while hiking with his son. They planned a challenging 19-mile route, starting at opposite ends and meeting midway at Indian Bar. The son reported seeing his father there. He was tired but in good spirits. The search began when Birch never arrived at White River's endpoint. Just 2 weeks after his disappearance, on July 26th, Birch's remains were found near Frang Pan Glacier. The cause of his passing is uncertain. Michael Fortenberry, Nathan Lerner, Austin Chase. In 2020, an unsettling pattern emerged. 3 men in their 30s, Michael Fortenberry, Nathan Lerner, and Austin Chase, all vanished within a year. Their cars found abandoned near the park's Fairfax Bridge. Search efforts yielded no sign of the men, baffling investigators with the eerily similar disappearances. Theories ranged from accidents in the treacherous terrain to possible foul play, but no definitive answers were found. Matthew Bunker, 2020. Matthew Bunker, a West Point graduate and military service person, was reported missing on June 26th by a fellow climber. 2 days later, park officials retrieved his body from the base of Liberty Ridge, a notoriously dangerous area known for avalanches and rockfall. The cause of his fall remains under investigation. Dr. Sam Dubel, 2020. Dr. Sam Dubel, age 33, began his solo hike in Mount Rainier National Park on Friday, October 9th, 2020, intending to return the next day. He was last seen on October 9th on the Mother Mountain Loop Trail near Lake Mowich. Reported missing on October 12th, 2020, when he didn't return. Even extensive search efforts failed to locate him. Vincent G., 2020. Vincent G. was last seen in the Longmire area on June 19, 2020. He vanished while hiking the Van Trump Trail near Longmire at Mount Rainier National Park. He was wearing black pants, a blue and white tie-dyed shirt, and a small drawstring bag. He has yet to be found. Talo Saba, 2020. The National Park Service announced that a body believed to be that of Talo Saba, a Seattle hiker reported missing on June 22, 2020, was recovered by Mount Rainier National Park rangers above Paradise on Monday. Saba, aged 27, had intended to hike in the area and was last seen when his vehicle was found parked at Paradise. His body was found in a drainage area near an off-trail. Dawes Eddy, 2023. On May 30th, 2023, 80-year-old Dawes Eddy embarked on a solo climb of Mount Rainier, a trek he'd done many times before. An experienced hiker, Eddy was celebrating his 80th birthday by revisiting his favorite mountain. About a week later, search crews found his body near Cathedral Gap, a high-elevation area prone to rockfalls and avalanches. The exact circumstances surrounding his disappearance remain unclear. A female skier who had been missing for a month was found deceased at the base of a waterfall in Washington State's Mount Rainier National Park, officials say. Rangers finally found her body. The search for the skier had been ongoing since May 19, 2024, with groups of rangers and volunteers scouring the park for tracks, the National Park Service said in a news release. An unresponsive person was spotted from a helicopter, and rangers recovered the body using traditional crevasse rescue methods, the release said. The woman appeared to have fallen roughly 200 feet to the base of Moraine Falls, above the area of Paradise, according to the release. It did not identify the woman. Favorable weather was needed for the helicopter's search and the recovery of the body to take place, park officials said. The body was taken to the Pierce County Medical Examiner's office for evaluation. No further updates have been released. Another man passed away at Mount Rainier in August 2022 while descending the Disappointment Cleaver route. Chung Hui Jiang of Surrey, British Columbia, was 52 years old. The cause of his passing is not known. The harsh mountain environment, with its unpredictable weather and unforgiving terrain, undoubtedly plays a role. However, the sheer number of disappearances undoubtedly leaves a lingering sense of unease. While there are many alternatives to Mount Rainier, the mountain is a testament to nature's awe-inspiring beauty and raw power. Yet, beneath its majestic facade lies a chilling undercurrent. The park's history is marked by numerous disappearances, some attributed to the unforgiving terrain and others shrouded in unsettling mystery.